Good morning. This morning I read from the Bible from a passage from Exodus chapter 33. Now Moses used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp some distance away, calling it the tent of meeting. And anyone inquiring of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside of the camp. And whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people rose and stood at the entrances to their tents, watching Moses until he entered the tent. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance, while the Lord spoke with Moses. Whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshipped, each at the entrance to their tent. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young aide Joshua, son of Nun, did not leave the tent. Moses said to the Lord, "You have been telling me, 'Lead these people,' but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You said, 'I know you by name, and you have found favour with me.' So if you're pleased with me, teach me your ways, so that I may know you and continue to find favour with you. Remember that this nation is your people." The Lord replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." Then Moses said to him, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?" It's a good question. Is there any distinguishing mark between us as Christians and others around us? How might we sense God's presence with us? For Jacob, it was in a dream when he was sleeping on a long journey, sleeping out in the open with his head upon a rock. And he dreamt of a stairway reaching up to heaven, and the angels going up and down on it, and the Lord at the top of the stairway. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." And maybe that's like us. Sometimes we're not aware that God was listening to us or interacting with our life circumstances until perhaps a little bit later on. Then we realise that he must have been there, but we didn't sense him. Elijah was on the run from death threats by Queen Jezebel after the battle on Mount Carmel. And he ended up in a cave on Mount Sinai. A great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper, or as the older versions put it, a still, small voice. Well, Moses had a tent, Elijah had a cave, Jacob had a stone in the wilderness. And I wonder if there is a space or a place or a posture that might help us become aware of God's presence during these difficult days. I have a friend called Andrew, and he said that every morning he would get up, have a nice cup of tea and sit in his favourite armchair with his Bible and that's where he would sense God's presence. Well, one day we're going to be able to get back into our churches to worship. But in the meanwhile, let's see if we can become aware of God's presence in the situations that we're in now.